My wife paraded, her new boyfriend and his kids to end our marriage. But my son's words shocked her. What's it like to watch your world collapse in a single moment? I was about to find out. The sun was setting, casting an orange glow over our quiet suburban street when I heard the rumble of an unfamiliar SUV in the driveway. My wife Sarah stepped out, her smile sharp enough to cut glass. But who was the stranger beside her, lounging against a silver Tahoe like he belonged in my life? 2 kids trailed him, their eyes darting nervously, and my son, Liam, stood frozen, confusion etched on his face. Why was Sarah acting like she'd already rewritten our story? What secret had she been hiding behind those late-night texts and sly glances? My stomach churned as her words hit like a sucker punch, hinting at a betrayal I hadn't dared imagine. Was this the end of everything I'd fought for? The air crackled with tension, and in that instant, I knew this wasn't just a visit. It was a declaration of war. But what Sarah didn't know was that her bold move was about to spark a battle she'd never win, one that would leave her stunned and me stronger than ever. Ready for the truth to unfold? I opened the front door and froze. She stood there in the driveway, my wife, Sarah, in skinny jeans she hadn't worn in ages, and a smug grin that didn't fit a marriage. But that wasn't what twisted my gut. No. Behind her, leaning against a shiny silver Tahoe, like he owned the damn place, stood a man I'd never seen before. Tall, bronzed, hair too slick to be natural, one arm casually draped around 2 kids just old enough to grasp betrayal, and just behind them, my son, Liam, clinging to the doorway with wide, baffled eyes. Sarah didn't even wait for me to speak. She flicked her long, ash-blonde hair over her shoulder and said, "David, meet Ryan and his boys. They'll be staying here for a bit. I think it's time we stop pretending." I laughed, not the funny kind, the jagged, hollow kind that claws its way out from somewhere deep. Pretending what, exactly? She brushed past me, didn't even flinch. Ryan followed, kids in tow, hauling suitcases like they'd claimed the place already. "You and I," she said, tossing her purse on the couch. "We've been done for a long time. You're just too blind to admit it." Liam stepped beside me, his hand trembling as he gripped my arm. "Dad, why is he here?" Sarah glanced, back smug. "Because he's the one keeping me warm now." That sentence didn't just hit me, it detonated something inside. I should have seen it coming. The late nights, the sudden yoga obsession, the new lingerie tag still on. Never meant for me. The way she'd glance at her phone and smirk like it held naughty secrets only she could hear. But I was naive. I thought maybe we were just hitting a rough patch, that if I kept being the steady one, the provider, the protector, she'd come around. Turns out, she already had someone else wrapping their arms around her while I sat in the next room, holding this. Marriage together like masking tape on a sinking ship. "Ryan's boys are nice," she added with a fake smile. "Maybe they'll help Liam be less soft." That was it. That's when something inside me snapped. But before I could speak, before I could even breathe, Liam stepped forward. My 12-year-old son with eyes just like mine but fiercer in that moment than I'd ever been. He pointed straight at Sarah and said, loud enough for the whole damn neighborhood to hear, "You're not my mum anymore." She blinked, caught off guard for the first time since she stepped out of that SUV. "I saw your messages," he continued, voice shaking but growing bolder. "You told Ryan you wanted to get rid of me because I remind you of Dad. You called me a roadblock." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Sarah's face turned pale, then red, then twisted into something venomous. "You little brat!" she spat. "You had no right." "He had every right," I cut in, stepping forward. "Because while you were playing house with some knockoff action figure, he was watching everything fall apart and wondering why you didn't love us anymore." She looked at me like I was dirt under her shoe. "Oh, please, don't make this dramatic. You were boring, David. Predictable. I needed a man who made me feel something again." "Feel something," I said, staring at the man who hadn't spoken yet. "You mean this clown?" Ryan finally stepped up, his voice smooth, like he'd rehearsed it in a mirror. Look, man, it's not personal. Sarah deserves to be happy. I almost laughed again, but my fists were clenched too tight. I hope she makes you as happy as she made me, I said, icy, because eventually she'll turn on you too. She always does, and when she does, I'll be there laughing. Sarah rolled her eyes and headed toward the kitchen. Whatever. You'll hear from my lawyer. I'm done talking. But she wasn't done. Not even close. And neither was I, because I had one more move to make, something she never saw coming. And it started with a file I'd hidden in the bedroom drawer, one that held every secret she thought she'd buried. I walked down the hall to our bedroom. No, my bedroom now, and opened the top drawer of the nightstand. Beneath a pile of old anniversary cards and USB drives was the manila folder I'd been building for the last 3 months. I never wanted to believe I'd need it. I wanted to be wrong, but I wasn't. Screenshots, bank statements, a motel receipt from a weekend I was out of town visiting my mum in Ohio. She told me she was sick. Turns out, Sarah was getting cozy at the Marriott with Ryan. Even a few printed X messages Ryan had sent to one of Sarah's friends, bragging about stealing her from her loser husband. I had proof, all of it. I walked back to the living room. Ryan was sprawled on my couch like he paid the bills, flipping through channels. His kids had started raiding Liam's snacks in the kitchen like they owned the place. Liam sat stiffly at the edge of the stairs, still in shock, still quiet, but burning. I could see it in his eyes. Sarah glanced at the folder in my hands and rolled her eyes. What, you printing memes now? Something like that, I said. She snatched it from me, flipped it open, and the smirk vanished in less than a second. You've been spying on me, she barked. No, I replied. I was collecting evidence. There's a difference, and now I've got enough to make. Sure, you don't walk away with a single thing but your cheap boyfriend and his snack-thieving kids. She threw the folder down on the table. Papers scattered. Ryan stood up. Hey, look, man, he said, trying to sound calm. Maybe we should take this somewhere else. No, I snapped. You walked into my home. You brought your mess into my family. You made it public, so let's keep it public. Sarah's voice turned venomous again. You don't have a clue what I've been through. You were never there for me emotionally. I was dead inside. You just sat there, fixing things around the house, being a good little handyman while I rotted. You didn't rot, I shot back. You wandered. There's a difference. And then Ryan, of all people, tried to put a hand on my shoulder. You need to calm down, bro. The way he said bro lit a fuse in me I didn't know I had. I slapped his hand off and stepped into his space. Say that again. See how calm I stay. He backed off. Sarah, now flustered, went for the only weapon she had left. You think a judge will side with you when you're threatening people in front of your kid? I'm not threatening, I said. I'm done. That's different too. And then, right there in the middle of this mess, Liam spoke again. Can I stay with you, Dad? He asked, voice small, real. Sarah spun to him. What? No, you're not picking sides. I already did, he said, the moment you brought them in here like we didn't matter. Ryan's kids, sensing. The shift looked unsure. One of them, probably around 9, whispered something to him. He bent down, nodding. Sarah, meanwhile, had crossed a line no court document could erase. She grabbed Liam by the arm. You're confused. I'm your mother. You don't talk to me like that. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just stepped forward and said, take your hands off my son. She froze. I'd never used that tone with her before. Cold, final. She let go. Ryan exhaled, like he just realized what he'd stepped into. Maybe we should go. Maybe you should have thought about that before you walked into another man's house with your toys and a welcome mat, I snapped. Sarah grabbed her bag. This isn't over. I know, I said. It's just starting. As they walked out, Ryan's younger kid looked back at Liam and gave a tiny wave. Liam didn't return it, Just watch them drive off like he was searing the memory into his brain forever. I closed the door, locked it, then turned and looked at Liam. "I'm sorry," I said. "You didn't deserve this." He hugged me tight, like he knew I was all he had now, and I realized I wasn't the one who lost everything. She was, and she didn't even know it yet. The next morning was quiet, not peaceful, just the kind of quiet that grips you and won't let go. The kind that follows a storm when everything's been tossed around and you're standing in the wreckage, trying to pretend it's still a home. Liam didn't go to school. I didn't make him. Instead, we sat at the kitchen table, sipping hot chocolate like two survivors of the same crash. He didn't ask about Sarah. Neither did I. But I knew the questions were eating him alive, just like mine were. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "Your behavior last night was abusive. You're unstable. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll be picking up my things with police presence. Do not contact me again." I read it twice, then showed it to Liam. He blinked at it, then whispered, "She really said you were abusive." "Yeah," I said, after everything she pulled. "Liar," he muttered. That word stuck with me. Simple, accurate. She lied like it was second nature, effortlessly, without remorse. But I wasn't going to sit around and let her twist the story into some victim act. She could play that role for her new boyfriend, for the court, for her gossip-hungry friends, but I had the truth. I had documents, timestamps, messages. I had Liam. That was enough. 2 days later, she showed up with 2 cops. No warning, just knocked on the door like she hadn't shattered our lives and expected me to roll over like a good little doormat. She stood there with oversized sunglasses and a fake frown, clutching a tote bag like it was her pride. One of the officers asked, "Are you David Carter?" I nodded. "Mom would like to retrieve personal items. Can you allow us entry in a few minutes to supervise the process?" I looked at Sarah. "You need bodyguards now." She smiled. "I'm protecting myself." "You should have done that before climbing into Ryan's car." The officer stepped between us. "Let's keep it respectful." I stepped back. "By all means, let the lady of the hour reclaim her heels and lies." She walked in like she still owned the place, went straight upstairs, and didn't even glance at the family photos on the wall. That hurt more than I expected. I thought maybe there'd be a flicker of regret in her eyes. Something. But she'd already checked out. While she was in the bedroom, I went to the fridge and grabbed a bottle of water. One of the cops lingered near the stairs, looking awkward. Then I heard her muttering, loud enough to carry down, "God, this place smells like failure. How did I live here so long?" I took a breath, held it, let it burn. She came down with 2 bags stuffed with clothes, makeup, and something that looked suspiciously like one of my watches. I pointed. "That's mine." "Please," she snorted. "You never wore it." "I will now." The officer looked at her. "Mum, if that item was purchased by him, you'll need to leave it." She huffed, pulled it off her wrist, and tossed it on the couch like it was trash. Then she turned to me and said, "Ryan's already planning to propose." I stared at her, silent. "Just thought you should know, so you can start moving on." I smiled, cold. "I already have." She blinked. That hit just a little. And then, as if the universe had a sense of humor, Liam came downstairs, holding something in his hand. It was the framed photo of the 3 of us from his 5th birthday. Him with cake on his nose, Sarah kissing his cheek, me holding them both. He handed it to her. She looked confused. "What's this?" "Keep it," he said, "so you remember what you threw away." Then he turned around and walked outside. One of the officers coughed and said, "That's everything, ma'am. We're done here." She didn't say another word, just followed them out, clutching that photo like it stung. I watched from the doorway as they disappeared down the driveway, and for the first time since this all began, I didn't feel broken. I felt something else. Clarity. The mask was off, The lies were out, and what remained wasn't sadness. It was power, because I wasn't the one hiding, and soon enough, the whole truth would be known. I had one more move left, and this time, I wasn't holding back. The day after she took her things, I filed for divorce. Clean, direct, with the full folder of evidence handed to my lawyer like a loaded weapon. He flipped through it, raised his eyebrows a few times, and finally said, "You've got enough here to bury her in court." "Good," I said. "Let her dig." I didn't tell Sarah. I let the papers do the talking. A knock at her new boyfriend's door, served while she was inside playing house with Ryan and his 2 boys. I imagine she tried to smile through it, maybe called it just paperwork, in front of them, but the timing wasn't accidental. I wanted Ryan to see what kind of woman he'd brought into his life. The kind who turns her kid into a pawn and her husband into a backup plan. The kind who lies so much she starts believing her own rewritten memories. 2 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail, then listened. It was Ryan. He didn't say much, just a shaky, quiet, "Hey man, I think we should talk. Call me back when you can." I didn't. Instead, I took Liam fishing. We drove out to a lake just outside town. No cell service, no noise, just the ripple of water and the occasional hawk overhead. He didn't say much for the first hour. Then, while tying on a lure, he looked up and said, "Do you think she ever loved us?" I didn't lie. "I think she loved the version of us that was convenient for her." He nodded. "I don't miss her." I did. Not Sarah now, but the ghost of who she used to be. The woman who used to sing off key in the kitchen while eggs burned. The girl who cried when we brought Liam home. That version died somewhere between Ryan's charm and her sudden disdain for family dinners. When we got home, there were flowers on the porch. A cheap bouquet from the grocery store, still in the plastic wrap. No note, just silence and desperation. I tossed them in the trash. Later that night, my lawyer emailed me a recording. A private investigator I'd hired had found something. A dinner, Ryan and a woman who wasn't Sarah. Same diner Sarah used to love, same smug attitude. The server confirmed it. He'd been coming in with the new one for a month, overlapping timelines. Karma, I guess, works fast. But I didn't tell her, not yet. Instead, I sent her one message. "Your fairy tale's cracking. I'd stay close to home this week." She replied 10 minutes later, "What the hell are you talking about?" I left it on. Read 2 nights later, I got a knock at the door, late, 11 p.m. Liam was already asleep. I opened it, and there she was. No Ryan, no makeup, hoodie, leggings, hair in a messy bun, but not the cute kind, the unraveling kind. "David," she started, trying to sound calm. "Can we talk?" I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. "No." She flinched. "It's important." "What, Ryan dump you already?" Her lip twitched. That hit harder than she expected. "I know you sent those papers. I got them, but maybe we rushed into this." I laughed in her face. "You rushed." She took a breath. "He's not what I thought." Shocker. "I made mistakes, okay? Big ones, I see that now. You made a choice. Over and over again." She got quiet. "I don't want Liam to hate me." "Then you shouldn't have brought a stranger and his kids into his home like a circus act." "I didn't know what else to do," she whispered. "That's the problem. You never think." Past the moment. And then, this part still burns. She put her hand on my arm and said, "Maybe we could fix this. For Liam." For a second, I just stared at her. Really stared. Then I stepped back. I already did. I fixed everything the moment you left. I turned, opened the door, and shut it in her face. She didn't knock again, but I knew it wasn't the end. No, she wasn't done yet, and neither was I. 3 days passed without a word. No flowers, No calls, no fake apologies. Then Friday came. I pulled into my driveway after work and saw her car already parked there. Front wheels turned like she meant to stay. She was standing in the front yard, pacing, arms crossed, dressed to kill. Tight black dress, heels too high for grass, lipstick red enough to bleed. She looked more like she was headed to a bar than trying to mend a family. Liam was still at school. I had maybe 20 minutes before he got dropped off. I stepped out of the car and didn't say a word. She saw me and lit up with a rehearsed smile. "David, you look good." I walked past her toward the front door. "What do you want, Sarah?" She followed me up the steps like a stray dog in designer clothes. "I talked to Ryan," she said casually, like we were friends again. "We decided things aren't working out. Too different. The boys didn't get along." "Tragic," I said, unlocking the door. She didn't wait to be invited in, just slipped past me like the last few weeks hadn't happened, sat on the couch like she belonged. "I've been thinking," she started, smoothing her dress. "Maybe I made a mistake." "You did make a mistake," I said. "A series of them, actually." "I wasn't myself," she said, giving that weak, wide-eyed look that used to work when she dented my truck or overspent the budget. "You know how lost I was. I needed attention. I needed to feel seen." I leaned against the wall, arms folded. "So you cheated, lied, humiliated me, brought a stranger and his kids into our home to replace us." She opened her mouth, but I cut her off. "And then you accused me of abuse to cover your guilt. Filed first with a lawyer to make me look unstable. Told our son he reminded you too much of me. Need me to keep going." Her smile cracked. "I just want another chance," she said, voice trembling now. "Not for me, for Liam. He deserves a full family." I stared at her for a long time, and then I told her the truth. "I filed for full custody. You'll get visitation, supervised, until Liam says otherwise." She stood up, fury flashing across her face. "You can't do that." "I already did. You want to fight it? Bring your folder. I'll bring mine." She narrowed her eyes. "You think this makes you the better parent?" "No. I think sticking around through every lie, every breakdown, every empty stare, every time you locked the bedroom door because you weren't in the mood for months, I think that makes me the better parent. You were cold. You were gone. We both stood there, breathing heavy, like two fighters in the 10th round with nothing left to give but hate. Then I heard the bus. Liam. I stepped onto the porch as he climbed off, backpack half zipped, hair messy from the wind. When he saw her, he stopped walking. "Mom." She smiled. "Hey, baby." He didn't smile back. "Why are you here?" he asked. "I came to talk to your dad," she said sweetly. "Just grown-up stuff." He looked at me. I gave him a slight nod. He walked up the steps and stood beside me. "Are you staying?" he asked her. "I was hoping to." "No," he said. "You shouldn't." Her face broke, just for a second. The fake mask dropped, and I saw it. Fear. Regret. A flash of something too late to matter. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll go." She walked back to her car, heels sinking into the lawn. Before she opened the door, she turned back and said, "He'll regret this one day. He'll ask why I left." Liam answered before I could. "No, I'll remember why." Then he turned around and walked inside. I followed, closing the door behind me, and for the first time in weeks, it felt like my house again. Not perfect, not whole, but honest. And I'd take that over her version of love any day. The following week was quiet, but not in a soothing way. It was the kind of silence you know won't last, the kind that builds like pressure under the skin. On Wednesday evening, just as I was setting plates down for dinner, mac and cheese with green beans, Liam's favourite, my phone rang. Unknown number again. I was going to ignore it, but something in my gut told me to pick up. "David Carter," the voice asked. "Yes, this is Officer Bennett with the County Sheriff's Department. We received a complaint filed against you. Harassment, possible endangerment of a minor." I stood there, stunned. What? The complaint comes from Ms. Sarah Carter. You're listed as making verbal threats, engaging in emotionally abusive behavior, and denying access to her child. I didn't speak right away, my jaw locked tight. He continued, "We're not pressing charges at this time, but we will need a formal statement, preferably with your attorney." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I understand. I'll have my lawyer contact you." I hung up, hands shaking. Liam looked up from the table. "What's wrong?" I forced a smile. "Nothing. Just some paperwork I forgot about." I didn't tell him. Not yet. But inside, I was boiling. She wasn't done. She couldn't leave quietly, couldn't accept that she'd shattered something beyond repair and lost the only people who ever really gave a damn. Now she was trying to paint me as the villain in her unraveling little drama. The woman who waltzed out of my life with another man was now trying to brand me as a danger to my son. I called my lawyer right after dinner. He wasn't surprised. "She's cornered," he said. "She's realizing she picked the wrong side, and now she's trying to claw back control. The good news? You documented everything. Let her come." That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, running through every moment we had, every lie she told, every time I brushed it off. I should have seen this version of her long ago, but I didn't want to. I wanted to believe she was better than this, that maybe she was lost, not cruel. But she was both. And the worst part, she was still Liam's mother. That Thursday, she showed up at his school. She wasn't supposed to. The divorce papers made it clear, no contact without approval, but she did it anyway. Waited until he got out, cornered him in the parking lot, and tried to convince him to come stay with her for a few days. He said no. She got angry, and a teacher saw it all. By the time I got there, the principal had already called me and escorted Liam to the office. Sarah was gone. Security footage caught enough for me to file a violation. She texted me that night, "You're turning my son against me. You'll regret this. He will too." I didn't respond. Instead, I showed it to my lawyer. That weekend, I sat with Liam on the couch and finally told him everything. Not the gritty details. He was too young for that, but the truth. "Your mum is going through something. She's made choices I can't protect you from anymore. But I will always make sure you're safe, no matter what she tries." He nodded. "I know, Dad. I see it." Then he said something I'll never forget. "I used to wish she'd come back. Now I hope she doesn't." I didn't know what to say. Part of me ached for him, but another part felt relief. He wasn't blind anymore. Neither of us were. That Sunday, a letter arrived, her official response through her attorney. She wanted joint custody, equal time, week on, week off. It was laughable, but I didn't laugh because I knew this wasn't about being a mother. It was about control. It was about punishing me for not letting her walk away clean. She thought I'd bend. She thought I'd crack. But she forgot something important. I don't lose to liars anymore. Not even the ones I once loved. Court day. I stood in front of the mirror that morning, adjusting a tie I hadn't worn since my dad's funeral. I didn't wear it for Sarah. I wore it for Liam, to show him that some things, like dignity, are worth putting back on when everything else falls apart. He wasn't with me, of course. I didn't want him anywhere near this circus. He was with my sister, probably playing video games, hopefully not thinking too much about what his parents were about to drag through the mud in front of a judge. My lawyer met me at the courthouse. He was calm, controlled, the kind of man who didn't blink even when the world was on fire. I admired that. "She'll probably play the victim," he said. "Tears, regret, all that. Let her. Stick to the truth. Let the paperwork talk." Sarah arrived 10 minutes later in a cream blouse, like she was attending a book club, not a battle. Hair tied neatly, minimal makeup, but still trying to play the picture of the grieving, discarded wife. Ryan wasn't with her, not anymore. I figured that implosion happened quietly after his little side affair got exposed. Good. Let her feel what betrayal tastes like on the other end. The hearing started calm enough. Introductions, backgrounds. Then her lawyer stood up and painted a picture so distorted I barely recognized it. Mrs. Carter has endured emotional neglect for years. Her attempts to salvage the marriage were dismissed. She made one mistake, yes, but only after Mr. Carter shut her out completely. Now she seeks to restore a relationship with her son, who has been kept from her unfairly. Kept unfairly. My lawyer stood up with the confidence of a man who had all the receipts, and he did. Every message, every motel record, every video call, where Liam cried after another failed meeting or unanswered call from her. The folder laid it all out, dates, times, her words in her own handwriting. The judge looked through it silently, and when he looked up at me, I didn't see sympathy. I saw understanding. Then Sarah took the stand. That's when the real theatre began. Tears, shaking voice. That damn act she used every time she needed to dodge responsibility. "I just want my family back," she whispered, voice cracking at all the right moments. "I never meant to hurt anyone. Ryan, it wasn't what it looked like. I was lost. I was empty, and David didn't see me anymore." She looked right at me, like I was supposed to nod and apologize. I didn't move. When it was my turn, I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I told the truth. I loved her. I gave her everything. She didn't just walk out. She detonated our family. She brought another man and his children into our home, introduced them to my son as if we were replaceable. And when it didn't work out, she tried to crawl back and paint herself as the victim. I paused, then added, "But this isn't about me. This is about Liam, and all he wants is peace." That silence in the courtroom afterward was louder than any shouting match we'd ever had. The judge ruled 3 days later. Primary custody granted to me, visitation every other weekend, supervised, until a child therapist confirms Liam's emotional readiness. Any violation, automatic suspension of rights. Her face when she heard it, she didn't cry. She fumed, tight jaw, eyes flicking from the judge to me like it was all some setup, like justice had cheated her too. Outside the courtroom, she caught up to me in the parking lot. "You think this is over?" she hissed. "You humiliated me in there." "No," I said. "You did that to yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She leaned in close, that sickly sweet voice returning. "You'll regret this. He's still my son." I didn't flinch. "You had a son, and you lost him the minute you chose a stranger over him." She didn't answer, just turned around and walked off. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I felt something I hadn't in months. Freedom. It didn't fix everything. It didn't erase the damage, but it was the first step. I picked up Liam from my sister's that evening. We drove, home in silence for a while. Then he asked, "Did we win?" I smiled. We didn't lose. And for now, that was enough. The following weeks felt different. Not lighter, not easier, just real. There were no more fake apologies, no more late night, texts twisting knives, no sudden appearances in our driveway with mascara running like war paint. She faded, slowly but surely, from our everyday life. And in her absence, something unexpected started to grow. Peace. Liam smiled more, ate more, slept better. The bags under his young eyes began to vanish, and the kid who used to tense up when the doorbell rang was now whistling while tying his shoes. That was victory, not the custody papers. Still, she tried to call. Once, twice, 3 times. Left voicemails that swung between pitiful and poisonous. "I miss him, David." "You don't have to be so cruel." Then, "You've poisoned him against me. You're disgusting." Then back again. "Maybe we can talk." Start over. I blocked her. Let her scream into the void where she belonged. One night, maybe 2 months after the hearing, Liam came into the living room holding an old photo album. The thick, canvas-bound one Sarah insisted we make when he was born. I hadn't opened it since before everything broke. He sat next to me, turned a page. "Do you think she ever looks at these?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "I think she does. I think she looks at them and realizes what she lost." He nodded slowly, then pointed at a picture. Me holding him in the hospital, eyes red but smiling. Sarah beside me, glowing like the world had just begun. "She used to be good," he whispered. "People change," I said. "Sometimes for the better, sometimes into someone you don't recognize." He looked at me. "I'm glad you didn't change." I smiled and ruffled his hair. "I did. I just didn't break." That weekend I took him hiking, just the two of us. No phones, no distractions, just the crunch of gravel and the rustle of leaves. He asked about the future. College, driving, maybe getting a dog. We planned all of it. We didn't mention her once. And in that silence, I found the closure I never thought I'd get. Because closure isn't always an apology. Sometimes it's a quiet morning, a breakfast together, a home without tension, a kid who finally feels safe again. She thought bringing Ryan and his sons into our home would end us. She thought she'd break me, but instead, she gave me something she never meant to: clarity, a clean slate, and the chance to show my son what real love looks like: solid, loyal, unshakable. So if you're reading this, and you're sitting in the rubble like I once was, wondering how it all turned to ash, listen closely. You're not broken. You're becoming. Let her leave. Let the lies fall apart. And when she comes crawling back with regret tangled in her hair, smile. Because by then, you'll know she lost the best thing that ever happened to her. And you'll finally be. When the dust settles after betrayal's storm, what remains is not just survival. It's a revelation of your own resilience. Sarah's choice to bring Ryan and his kids into our home wasn't just a wound. It was a mirror, showing me the strength I'd buried under years of loyalty to someone who'd checked out long ago. The lesson burns deep. You can't force love from someone who's already left, but you can reclaim your life from their chaos. My advice? Don't cling to those who diminish you. Their exit is your liberation. Protect your peace fiercely, especially for those who depend on you, like Liam did on me. Trust your truth, even when it's messy, because lies unravel faster than you think. Every moment I stood firm, through her accusations, her manipulations, I wasn't just fighting for custody. I was teaching my son that integrity outlasts deceit. If you're caught in someone's web of betrayal, know this: you're not defined by their choices. Step away, rebuild, and let their regret chase them. You're not broken. You're breaking free. And in that freedom, you'll find a life richer than they could ever imagine.